With his ratings on his own network now being eclipsed by a guy who weeps and is showing the early signs of a psychological breakdown, we all knew Bill O'Reilly would do something to try to force the spotlight back onto him. But who could have guessed that his desperation to regain Rupert Murdoch's flagging affection could have reached these extremes, victimizing a woman who had written about his past attempts to blame a victimized woman, and writing a newspaper column in which he fantasizes about Cy Hirsch and me and most of the staff at MSNBC being assassinated. Our #1 story on the countdown, Bill O'Reilly's call to violence. The woman he had stalked, Amanda Turkle, the managing editor of thinkprogress.com, joins us presently. First, what he wrote, inexplicably published over the weekend by the Boston Herald, which usually does not print articles with 2 factual mistakes in the first sentence, which then move on to murder fantasies. The other day, left-wing muckraker Seymour Hersh went on MSNBC and said he had information provided by the usual anonymous sources that Dick Cheney was running an assassination squad out of the White House. I have but one simple observation. If Cheney really had such a crew, Hersh would have been dead a long time ago, and so would most everybody at MSNBC. Would they not? The factual problems, Bill O was too careless to note that Cy Hirsch did not go on MSNBC to say that. In fact, he refused requests for an interview by virtually every show on this network. The remarks to which O'Reilly referred were made in Minnesota. Minnesota, MSNBC starts with the same letter. Such is the care with facts taken by Bill O'Reilly, and by extension, such is the care with facts taken by the Boston Herald. The other part about the reputed Cheney assassination squads. In his comments in Minnesota, Hirsch was unmistakably clear. The squads about which he had only the most preliminary of information would have been run outside of this country, not inside. The factual sloppiness is O'Reilly's specialty, but this sudden call to violence, this insanity of pimping himself for ratings, even at the cost of throwing away any little remaining humanity, this is something new. When a blogger went to O'Reilly's home to confront him, I condemned the blogger. When I dared to catch O'Reilly in another lie, he wrote an op-ed for a newspaper passively theorizing about the deaths of me and everybody who works with me. When a web editor called him out for blaming a rape victim, then speaking at a fundraiser for rape victims, he accused her of hurting rape victims, and he stalked her. Well, let's not ignore your dirty little secret, Bill. You're not man enough to have done that yourself. You leave the stalking to a kid named Jesse. Now you write about which journalist Dick Cheney would have had killed. You are without conscience, without soul, and your description of yourself as a Christian are laughable and demeaning to those of all faiths. And yet what O'Reilly did to Ms. Turkle was far worse. One of O'Reilly's producers, Jesse Waters, and a cameraman ambushed her right after she had checked into a hotel with a friend during a vacation in Winchester, Virginia. Ms. Turkle surmised that the 2 men must have staked out her apartment and followed her car for 2 hours to the vacation destination. They asked her about her then 3-week-old post. The ambush interview was the centerpiece of O'Reilly's rant last night.
You wrote a blog about Bill O'Reilly going to speak for this rape function, this charity group, and you attacked him personally, and you attacked the foundation, and you brought a lot of pain and suffering to this group. What's your reaction?
What I remember was highlighting a comment that Bill O'Reilly had said, and that's what I remember doing. I don't remember attacking the foundation.
What did Bill O'Reilly say?
I can't remember exactly what he had said because it was a while ago, but I remember it was something having to do with he had talked about a rape victim in a derogatory way that seemed to place the blame for the rape on the victim.
Among the truly stunning aspects of this one, O'Reilly called Ms. Turkle a villain, but her original post for which she was so victimized by O'Reilly was brief, unadorned, and entirely factually accurate. In it, she noted, as have I, that O'Reilly was asked to speak at a fundraiser for the It Happened to Alexa Foundation, which supports rape victims, even though O'Reilly had said that teenage sexual assault victim Sean Hornbeck had enjoyed parts of his life of slavery to a pervert, and O'Reilly had blamed a dead rape victim, calling her moronic. On August 2nd, 2006, on his radio show, his words, no context clips nor attenuating words missing, quote, so anyway, these 2 girls come in from the suburbs and they get bombed and their car is towed because they're moronic girls and, you know, they don't have a car. Now Moore, Jennifer Moore, 18, on her way to college. She was 5'2", 105 pounds, wearing a mini skirt and a halter top with a bare midriff. Now again, there you go. So every predator in the world is going to pick that up at 2 in the morning. Joining me now, as promised, the managing editor of thinkprogress.org, Amanda Turkle. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
What we saw there was just one part of that clip that O'Reilly played last night, which was itself pretty thoroughly edited. Describe the experience firsthand.
Well, of course, what O'Reilly left out last night is how he got that clip. He never contacted me for a statement. He never asked me to do an interview. He never even came to my office. Instead, from what I can infer, because they refused to respond to our request for comment, is that he had Jesse Waters find my home address, stay at my apartment, stake it out until I left, follow me across state lines, and then accost me on the streets of Virginia while I'm on vacation. And, you know, during that interview, I said, if anyone from the Alexa Foundation is truly upset at what we wrote, I'm happy to speak with them one-on-one if they call me. But I'm not relaying messages through Fox News. Of course, they didn't put that. But it was incredibly disturbing to be somewhere where you thought no one was there, and then you have these two people come up to you shouting your name, saying you're hurting rape victims.
And it should be noted here, and you mentioned this, but he has stated in the past that the only time he would use this ambush interview approach is for those who have refused to come in and do interviews, and also people who are public figures. So I gather he's 0 for 2 on that. And there's another critical part of this. Did you ever actually criticize this foundation in anything that you wrote on the web?
I never criticized the Alexa Foundation. I didn't know much about them, but from what I heard, they did good work, and they're free to choose whichever speaker they want. We wanted to show what O'Reilly had said and show him for who he really was. And that's what he hates the most. He hates when liberal blogs or other organizations simply listen to his show, tell people what he said, and post the audio or the video. Mm-hmm. That's what he hates the most.
Have you had the opportunity to step back from this experience and contemplate that Bill O'Reilly had you stalked to make himself look better for comments that he had made about a woman who was preyed upon, raped, and murdered?
Well, I find that one of the most disturbing parts of this. Bill O'Reilly was trying to show that he cares about women who have been victims of crime. So to make that point, he sends 2 men to find my home address and to follow me on vacation. I mean, it was incredibly disturbing. The rest of the weekend, I was constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering how long they had been following me, if they're still following me. And tonight I heard on his show, he said he's going to do another interview, or sorry, another segment about me, claiming that Jesse Waters was completely polite to me the entire time.
And there's something else in here, and this sort of, there is a self-serving quality to this, but it's also about the truth. O'Reilly suggested on the air that you were somehow in cahoots with NBC. He dragged Jeff Zucker, who is the chairman of NBC. He dragged this into this. You were, quote, obviously used by NBC News. Welcome to the staff. I didn't know you worked here.
Neither did I. I'm not getting a paycheck. I mean, that was one of the most ludicrous parts of the entire interview. It was completely made up. I mean, all we did was find a story that had been on another blog called Newshounds, see what Media Matters had written, highlighting O'Reilly's old comments. And so all we're really guilty of is reading what's on the Internet.
And another odd thing here, you did, as we always try to do here, you pointed to O'Reilly's own words, and his producer was pressing you to consider a full context, this Mel Gibson aspect of what O'Reilly had said, but I don't see how that was exculpatory, because if anything, the Mel Gibson aspect of this would just make O'Reilly's comments about that rape victim worse, not better, wouldn't they?
Well, Jesse Waters was trying to make it seem that because while I was on vacation, I couldn't remember the context of the remarks. That means I took them out of context, which, you know, O'Reilly may be surprised I don't sit around on vacation thinking about him. But the Mel Gibson comments were actually, I thought, made it worse, because he compared Mel Gibson getting drunk and going on a drunken anti-Semitic rant with a girl who happened to be drunk when she was raped. You know, Mel Gibson was responsible for his actions, and this girl clearly wasn't.
Well, and in that larger context there, and this is also true with Rush Limbaugh, if you did not, their defense always is if you did not see the whole show and you're not a regular viewer, you don't have a right to criticize or quote it, which is extraordinary in any event. Amanda Turkle, the managing editor of thinkprogress.org, on behalf of television, my apologies for him, and thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.